I really just want to talk to you from my heart and share with you just some things that I have been just really in prayer about for the past week, and just really feel like it's time to just kind of open my heart and share with you where I'm at.
Welcome to the Mark Casto program, where we challenge the old systems, tear down chaos, and build with kingdom clarity. Here, we equip a generation of wise messengers like you to turn God-given wisdom into lasting impact and real wealth. Let's dive in.
So let's jump all the way back to when I was living in West Virginia, 17, 18 years old, had my first real, like what I would call my first like adult kind of encounter with Jesus, where I really experienced his presence, his love, and really felt like he was calling me to himself for a particular purpose. And so during that time, I went from someone who was a student, like high school student, went to college for like 3 days, hated it. Day one was picking my classes. Day two was picking up my books. Day three was the first day of classes. And when the English teacher gave me my first assignment, I raised my hand and said, "Can I use the restroom?" I walked out and never went back. I just didn't feel like college was for me. And in that moment, like I always thought, well, maybe that was just me not wanting to pursue a further education. Now I look back and I believe the Lord was protecting me for many reasons. But during that time, my dad was planting a church in St. Albans, West Virginia. I got involved with that, started really getting into a spirit of prayer. And I began to really devour the Word of God, devour books on revival, awakening, the move of the Spirit, miracles. And those things just really came alive in my heart. So I found myself running with a crew in the Charleston, West Virginia area, just seeking the Lord with these young men and young women. We would have times where we would do all-night prayer meetings, have worship nights, different things. I remember being in a small campus right across the street from West Virginia State College, and we had an all-night prayer meeting there. I think I was the only white person in the room, and I remember laying in the floor in the very back of the church, and they brought a woman. I believe her name was Prophetess Smith. She had a son that was a fantastic keyboard player there in the West Virginia area. I believe he played many years there at Christ Temple and some of the other churches there in West Virginia. But I was laid down in the floor, and I remember this woman she grabbed the mic, she began to pray, she began to prophesy over some of the students that were there in the room. And there I was. Maybe I did stick out like a sore thumb because, again, I think I was the only white person in the room, but I don't know how she saw me because I was laying on the floor. And she said, there's somebody in the back, and I believe I have a word for him. And so somebody nudged me. I stood up. And she said, "Young man, I've got a word for you." She said, I see your face on television screens. I see it on going through satellite, and you're literally, God is going to use your voice through media to touch the world. Guys, I've never shared this prophecy or shared this encounter ever publicly in a format like this. This is something I've kept private in my heart for many, many years. Fast forward 2 weeks later, at my father's church, there was another prophet that came. We called him Elder Carter. He was a powerful prophetic man, another African-American minister that did a lot of services with my dad. And Elder Carter came to our church, and he gave me the exact same word as Prophetess Smith had given me. And so those are, when you're 18 and you're helping your father plant a small little church in the Charleston, West Virginia area, you kind of just, hide those things in your heart and you ponder them. And I've been in ministry for many, many years, 20 years this year. I can say, be 21 really. I can say 21 years in the ministry. I've traveled all over the world preaching the gospel, 42 weekends out of the year, 6 weeks out of the country. I did that for about 9 years. We established helped establish a very large ministry in the Cleveland, Tennessee area, transitioned from that. I got a book contract, and I've done so many different things, and so thankful for the journey because it's made me the man that I am today. All that being said, though, I never, many times I would kind of come into the media area and then I would back off. It just didn't feel like it was totally right. I would try to do stuff, and it would just never really work out. And so fast forward to 2023, 7 days before the fire in Covington that burnt our church down, I was walking in my backyard, wasn't thinking about anything. All I was praying about was, man, we just bought a home. We were living on a beautiful acreage, and I was just enjoying the property. The church was growing. We were actually in that season talking about what are we going to do, because every week we were having to set up more chairs, and maybe we're going to need a bigger facility, or maybe we're going to have to do another service. Like, what are we going to do? And we were in real conversation at that time, and it just seemed like everything was perfect. But on that walk, this would have been, I think, August 17th or 18th, again, 7 days before the fire. And while I'm walking in my backyard thinking nothing else, I felt the Holy Spirit say to me, Mark, I want to talk to you about business and media. And it kind of caught me off guard. And I was like, business and media? I don't have time for business and media. I've got this church. It's a young church plant. We're not even really established yet. People are really starting to come from the region. We just got out of these amazing revival services with my apostolic father and my spiritual father. And we were having this amazing outpouring of the Spirit. And I'm like, I've got to focus on this church. I had given my life to that. I wasn't traveling and preaching or doing anything crazy like that. I was staying focused on that assignment. And I would just try to move off from that and pray. And the Lord would say again to me, Mark, I want to talk to you about business and media. I would shrug it off. I went through this back and forth of trying to pray, but never getting that statement out of my spirit for like 45 minutes. Finally, I walk down to the creek. I start walking back to the house. And I remember as I'm walking back to the house, I kind of threw my hands up like, are you serious? Is this really you? And if this is, and this is what I said, God, if what I'm doing currently is not the ultimate blueprint for my life, then shut down what I'm doing and give me this new blueprint for business and media. Guys, God is my witness. 7 days later, August 24th, 2023, a woman flicked a cigarette at a salon. It rolled underneath a porch, caught dryer lint that nobody knew was being blown under there from the salon, caught it on fire, and it set ablaze 7 businesses, including our church. It was devastating. It took me several days to kind of just settle down from that. The Limleys, who are my our covenant friends, my brother, my sister, Bobby and Jesse, stayed there with us through the whole thing. And lots of cool things in that. I'm not going to talk about that now, but once they left, and we were Destiny and I were kind of left to ourselves and what was happening and, kind of got our bearings. The Lord said to me, Mark, are you ready to talk about media and business? And I said, yes, Lord, you're obviously speaking. You're obviously saying something here. And so for the past 19 months or so, I've been on this journey of building a business. And my business is showing people how to take their God-given wisdom and package it into digital products. For years as an author, I would write books like this book right behind me. I would write books like that. And then I would build digital courses around it. And the digital courses and what I did with my digital products is what created a real income stream for me and my family beyond just the books. And so I was like, man, I want to show people the opportunity that's coming. Obviously, it's bigger than that, but I have experience and knowledge in that area. And so I want to help authors. I want to help thought leaders. I want to help kingdom entrepreneurs take their God-given wisdom, package it into digital products, and I show them how to do it. I've created what I believe is a world-class 12-month program to lead people in that journey of doing that, okay? But I will be honest with you, when I moved to Mobile after our transition from Covington, that transition was very difficult for me. Lots of things that I still don't understand this day that I've had to just really give to the Lord. But I realize many times in my life, when you don't know how to transition, when you don't know how to shift, when you don't know how to close a door, the Lord will close it for you. And so I think that the Lord allowed some things to happen to help remove us from that city, so I wouldn't try to rebuild what he was trying to pull me out of. I know that's crazy. Maybe that's a story for another day. But we had 2 prophets, confirmations coming. People, I could probably, I have a whole thing in my notes in my phone. I could count like 20 what some people would call coincidences. I call them divine appointments. 20 different words, dreams that were given to us that told us God was removing us from the city of Covington and he was going to relocate us to Mobile, Alabama. I'm talking about dreams, visions, people that had no clue what was going on, calling us, giving us the prophetic word of the Lord. And I know that can be difficult, especially for people that are in Covington that supported our ministry and loved us there, because not everybody walked away from us. Unfortunately, though, there are people that loved and supported our ministry that probably don't understand why we left and why we moved. That's not for me to talk about today. All I can tell you is we loved people well. We did the best that we could to lead that church, and I think ultimately our assignment. I think there was an invitation given for some people to rise up and to help carry leadership so that we could transition into the day that we're in, still leading that, still overseeing that church, but that wineskin didn't make a shift. I'm not blaming one single person for that. I just think it's a difficult day, not only for church planting, but it's a difficult day when you're going to plant a church that looks nothing like the American church. And so it was a hard transition, and unfortunately, we didn't make it through the transition. I'm not mad at anybody. I think I was at one point. I think I was offended. I think, if I'm being honest, there were days where I had to battle, like if the love of God doesn't pour into my heart, there's going to be some bitterness in here, and I don't want that. And I believe the Lord's taken me through an incredible healing process. And the stuff I don't understand, I believe I just gave it to him. He took that burden off of me. And I can honestly say, I know I'm supposed to be in Mobile, Alabama. I love being connected to the local church and my spiritual father here. I wouldn't trade it for the world. And every day, life gets sweeter, life gets better. And we just continue to move on and love everybody. I've said this for years, and I mean it more today than ever. Mark Casto has no enemies. I love everybody. And I've told people for years, if you and I aren't walking together 20 years from now, 30 years from now, 40 years from now, it'll be on you, not me. So everybody still has a seat at my family table. All it takes is a conversation and we get on the other side of it. That's how I live my life. I've always lived that way because kingdom people are peacemakers. Kingdom people are always striving to keep the family of God and to live in peace and to keep everybody unified. And I'm not perfect by any means, but always will be quick to repent, always willing to say I'm sorry, always willing to say I hope you forgive me, always willing to take the high road or low road, whichever way you look at it. But take the path of humility because I know I'm going to need it one day. I want to show mercy, give mercy because I need it too. And so I've always tried to live that way. All that being said, I know I'm 15 minutes into this and you're like, Mark, why are you telling me all of this? Now that we're here, now that we've built this business and I feel like we have some things established, as soon as I got the Wise Builders Creator Academy established and now that thing just teaches people all the time and I've kind of got my schedule, I felt the Holy Spirit stir me up. And I thought, man, like I feel this really strong call to teach. And so I get to do that at Union University here in Mobile. I get to do that pretty soon. Like this semester, I'm a floater, but next quarter, I'm going to be teaching weekly and that'll kind of be the rhythm going forward. Really thankful for that. But the Lord reminded me, Mark, I called you to media and business, and I've made all of my media about business, and I've really gotten away from talking about the gospel of the kingdom. And something more important in my heart is taking what's happening in the culture, what's happening in the world, and showing you how to see it through the lens of good news. Now, all that being said, I really do believe the Lord is speaking to me now. And again, you've heard me talk about this maybe in bits and pieces, but I believe the time is now to step fully into this media calling for business and the preaching and teaching of the gospel. I see it not as exclusive, but together, okay? I see it coming side by side. I don't know how all of that pans out. Like, do we have separate podcasts? Do we have separate shows? Or is it all the Mark Casto program? I don't have all that figured out. But here's what I can tell you. I know I'm supposed to call the body of Christ into an entrepreneurial spirit and the entrepreneurial grace of God giving us the power to create wealth. I know I'm supposed to do that. But guys, I'm telling you, with what's happening in our nation, with the things that are happening, we desperately need a Jesus revolution. We desperately need the gospel of the kingdom to be preached. And I believe we're in one of the greatest days of Reformation, even greater than the days of Martin Luther. And I believe that the Western Christianity is going through a Reformation now to realize that we in the Reformation movement, since Martin Luther, we had experienced some reform, but we've not reformed back far enough. And I believe that the gospel is being revealed to this generation unlike any other generation in the history of the world. And I know I'm called to speak the gospel, preach the gospel, because in those words, even 19 years ago, 18 years ago in West Virginia, when I was literally, nobody knew my name outside of my dad's church, really. Even in those days, the Lord would always say to me, Mark, I didn't call you to pastor a church. You're going to shepherd a movement. And I've pondered this stuff for years, and now it's starting to make sense. God's speaking to me that I can shepherd a movement. I can preach the gospel. I can do all of these things right here from my office through media. So I'm asking many of you to do a couple things. Number one, I ask for your prayers that God would give me wisdom. That's what I'm praying for right now. God, give Mark wisdom. Give me wisdom so that I can make great decisions. I really feel like the Lord's called us to build Long Path Studios. My son just had an amazing dream. Maybe I'll share that in days to come. But I mean, like, as I've been praying and engaging with the Lord about this, here comes the prophetic words. Here comes the dreams. And my son Elijah had a powerful dream. My wife reminded me of a word that God gave her and a dream that God gave her when we first got married. And like all this stuff is coming together. And I believe the Lord's saying now's the time to build this media ministry, this Long Path Studios. Long Path Publishing is our business. That's what we run Wise Builders through. That's what all my books are through, all those things. And so I'm coming on today to tell you, and I'm still going to teach, and I'm still going to share some things with you because I think it's really important. I'm going to share with you the vision and some of what I'm feeling, calling other messengers up, because I do not believe I'm building this media company just for me. I believe I'm building this media company to help raise up voices of reformation, carrying the undiluted gospel of Jesus Christ into every facet of society and calling kingdom entrepreneurs to a place of wisdom where we can start providing real solutions for our nation and the nations of the world's real problems. And so I believe that's something God's called me to do. And so I'm asking you to stand with us. You say, Mark, how can we stand with you? Well, number one, I'm asking you to pray, guys. I'm asking you to pray for me. I really am believing that the Lord is in this. Like, he's speaking so clearly on this. And man, I appreciate this, Chris, because I'm doing this on live stream. I really appreciate you saying this. I believe the Lord has given me a blueprint. But I believe that I'm supposed to build Long Path Studios, Long Path Publishing. I'm supposed to build this media so that I can publish the books I know are going to change the Western church. I want to be able to help start the podcast and start the YouTube channels and start the programs that need to be in front of people so that we can bring wisdom, kingdom wisdom, back to the forefront and see our nation changed by the gospel. Guys, ever since I've been a young man, I've had a passionate heart for America. Maybe one day I'll tell you the crazy story about me going to India and praying to God, saying, God, if you call me to be a missionary and go all over the world, I'll do it. But I really feel like you've called me to America. And if you have, I need confirmation. I had this crazy encounter while I was in India from an Indian pastor there. I've got the prophecy hanging on the wall outside in the hallway of the studios, where this man gave me a word about media and the nation of America opening up to my voice by way of media and not just my voice, but that God was going to use me to raise up other voices to be voices in media to touch the nation. So I've got a big announcement coming here in just a few minutes. You're going to have to stick with me. This is going to be a little longer than what I normally do, but stick with me. I got a big announcement coming here in just a few moments. So if you're watching this on live stream right now, I want you to do me a favor. I want you to share this with as many people as you can, because I believe this is going to be a grassroots movement, revolutionary in what we're doing, and I feel like now's the time to launch it. What I saw happen last week to a young man whose voice had been taken from him, what I see happening in our country that's bringing racial division, political polarization, what it's doing to our country, I see some things coming, and we've got to have more voices of wisdom standing up in this hour. And I'm telling you, I'm going to say something. This might be controversial, but I feel like I have to say it. The Spirit of the Lord gave me a call a couple of years ago through my spiritual father, who gave me a prophetic word, and he started talking to me about my assignment to the nation and some things that I need to say. And as I went into a place of prayer, I've never said this statement publicly, but I'm going to say it today, that the Lord spoke to me and said, Mark, America, the United States of America, will be saved when it's no longer the national religion. The United States of America will be saved when the United States of America is no longer the national religion. What does that mean? Jesus wants to do something in America, but we've got to give our allegiance to Jesus first and follow his ways and his blueprints. And we as Americans, what overflows into us as citizens of the United States of America comes as an overflow of our commitment and our union to the blueprint of Jesus, that we in America become true followers of the way. So I want to tell you, I love my nation. I love being a citizen of the United States of America, but ultimately my call is to Jesus. He's the King of Kings. He's the Lord of Lords. And I believe he's got a special plan, and we're going to do our part through Long Path Publishing, Wise Builders Creator Academy, all the things that we're doing in our ministry and business to make sure that we use media as an outlet to change the world. So if you want to stand with me, this is what I'm believing for to get us started. I'm believing that the Spirit of the Lord is going to speak to 100 people that's going to sow $1,000 into what we're doing. I'm not trying to manipulate you in this. I'm not saying God told me this. I'm saying this is what I'm believing for, what I'm asking God for to help us come out with a strong start. We need to upgrade our equipment. I've got a video editor that I want to hire. He's fantastic at what he does. I want to put him on salary so that I can crank out these things at a level of excellence that we've never seen. And I know I've got the right people around me, but we need the resources to do it. So I'm asking the Lord, and if you feel this in your spirit, I want to ask you to do it. I'm asking the Lord to give us 100 people that will invest into what we're doing. And it's a tax-deductible donation. It goes into our ministry. It goes in, we have a nonprofit and a for-profit, okay? When you go to markcasto.co/donate, you can become a media partner there. You can set up monthly giving there. But if you want to help us start off strong, I'm believing for 100 people to donate $1,000. That would give us $100,000 to take this first step into really building Long Path Studios. And I believe when we get that first 100,000, it's going to launch us into a whole nother stratosphere of income coming in, because people need the gospel. They need a good news lens. Come on, a good news lens for how to see what's happening in the culture. And we're going to just trumpet the message of the gospel and kingdom entrepreneurship. Why kingdom entrepreneurship? Because the scriptures say in Deuteronomy 8:18, it is God, Yahweh, who gives his people the power to create wealth that he might establish his covenant in the earth. So I just want to tell you, I need you wealthy so that you can do what God's called you to do and be who God's called you to be. And we need resources coming into what we're building, because we've got books to publish. We've got courses to release. We've got voices that need to be heard. We've got programs that we need to build. We've got curriculum that we want to send to homeschooling parents all over the nation. Like, there's so much in our hearts to do, but it's going to take monthly partnership. It's going to take massive donations for us to get there. We believe the Lord's going to take care of it because we believe it's the Lord's vision. But I want to give you an opportunity to partner with us and help us do it. So if you're one of those 100 people that can give $1,000, I ask that you go to that website, markcasto.co/donate, and donate today. Also, you say, Mark, I don't have $1,000. Listen, $5, $10 a month, $20, $25 a month, $50, $100 a month. Maybe all you have is $500 that you can give. Whatever you give, we're going to use it to build Long Pass Studios and change people's lives with it. So that's just to share with you, man, what's going on. And I appreciate the support. I see Christine Tucker on here. She wrote an amazing book that we got to help her with. Guys, we've got so many friends and partners that are watching this, and I'm just blown away at your guys' love and support of what God's called us to do. And this is the next phase for us. And I believe this is something that's going to just grow into something. I really feel like for the first time in my life, as I just stepped into 39 years on this planet, I believe the Lord is finally brought me into my most authentic seat of who God's called me to be. And I'm taking my place. And this is the first time I've had full permission and liberty to just go for it in both the media and business side. And I see nothing but green lights and the Holy Spirit just saying, go, do this thing. And with my spiritual father's support, with brothers and sisters in the kingdom who you're going to hear from, I'm going to interview some of them, bring them on my podcast or bring them on my live stream. It's going to be an amazing journey, guys. I can't wait to share this with you, but I need your help. So if you want to partner with us, that would be great. So you ready to jump in? I know it took 26 minutes, but to do that. But I think it's important because you guys need to know my story. You need to know what brought me to this moment. And I think the events last week really spoke to me, woke me up. And it was just like, hey man, this is a cultural moment that I believe many voices are going to be raised up. And again, I am not going to share anything like the voice that got silenced, last week. That's not my calling. That's not what I'm called to do. But I believe that cultural moment shows you that if there was ever a time for wisdom and the voice of wisdom that needs to be spoken, it's time for it now. So don't think Mark's going into politics and I'm going to be, no, that's not what I'm doing. It's Jesus and business. You knowing who you are because of the gospel and you becoming a solution to people's problems through entrepreneurship around the world. So that's what we're going for. But I just believe last month was a big cultural moment, or last week was a cultural moment that we can't ignore. And it really kind of brought perspective to me. And I was really praying about my own calling in the media space, realizing, man, we're in an interesting time where you can stand for traditional family, marriage, and Christian values, and you can experience what we experienced last week for that. And it really made me sit and think and count the costs. And I'm like, you know what? Although I don't feel called to do anything that man did, I do have a calling to media. I do have a calling to speak the truth of the gospel, and I'm going to take my place in it. So here we go. All right, let's jump in today. Guys, every war in history has been fought over something, whether it was land or resources, power, religion. But can I tell you, the fiercest war of every generation doesn't just get fought with arrows or guns or tanks, and now tanks and missiles or drones or even soldiers on the ground. The greatest battle has always been the fight over your mind. And the battlefield, guys, the greatest battlefield. Does it happen in the Middle East? Yes. Does it happen between the borders of nations? Yes. But this battle, it's bigger than courtrooms, Capitol buildings, and battlefields. It's actually in your pocket. And guys, I'm going somewhere with this. I've got an announcement coming soon. It's in your pocket. It's the glowing screen in your hand. It's the feed you scroll while waiting in line at a coffee shop or lying at bed at night or sitting in a break room at work. This is the battlefield of our time. And if you think I'm exaggerating, let me say it plainly. Every scroll, every swipe, every algorithmic suggestion, these are not neutral. They're discipling you. They're shaping your emotions, your worldview, your values, your sense of what's possible and what's not. And the war for your mind is happening here right now. And it's no accident that division feels louder, fear feels closer, confusion feels heavier than ever before, because the new town square isn't Main Street anymore. It's the device in your pocket. The new battleground for influence isn't pulpits or parliaments. It's TikTok and Instagram and YouTube and endless scrolls, okay? And here's the sobering reality. If we don't recognize this battle, if we don't raise up wise messengers in this digital age, then the loudest voices will continue to shape culture while we, the people of God, who should be some of the wisest ones, remain silent. Now think about this. Our children are being discipled more by influencers than teachers. Our politics are being defined more by tweets than by the actual policies. And our values are being shaped more by viral clips than by timeless truth. And the result is a generation that feels fragmented, anxious, addicted to approval, and desperate for identity. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying social media is the enemy. I'm not saying that technology itself is evil. I'm saying it's like money. Money is not evil. It's what people do with money that makes it good or bad. Technology is the same way. So the question is, who will use it? Who will fill it? Who will fill the feed? Who will speak into the noise? Who will bring wisdom into the scroll? Because the question is not if people will be influenced, but by whom, okay? And this is why we need wise messengers, not just another wave of entertainers, not just another cycle of influencers chasing clicks, not more noise, but voices rooted in wisdom, voices carrying clarity, voices that don't just mirror the culture, but they shape it. Because here's what I believe with every fiber of my being. The next great move of the Spirit in culture is not going to happen just in churches. I believe the conference model is over. I don't see God moving in these big, massive conferences and gatherings. It's going to happen through content. It's going to happen right there in the home. I'm not saying there won't be massive gatherings. I believe that once the Spirit of God begins to move in homes and move through content, I believe people will gather together. But I'm saying that's not the goal. We've got to reach people where they're at. So through voices who have the courage to step forward, package their wisdom and release it into the digital space, guys, that's where the impact's going to be, because that's where the world is already gathered. And guys, we're living in a moment where silence is costly. Now, I do want to say this. I believe silence is what gives birth to something being said that can actually change the world. But to remain in silence when your wisdom needs to be heard, it's very costly, not only for you, but for other people. Guys, neutrality in this moment is not an option. Where the absence of wisdom, guys, we're living in a day where the absence of wisdom is full. It's literally fueling the presence of foolishness. So let me say it again as clearly as I can. The battle for the mind has been happening for as long as humanity has lived, and it's happening right now. And the question is, will you be silent, or will you step forward as a wise messenger? And that's what I want to talk about today in our episode, because if you've ever wondered, does my voice really matter? Do I have anything worth saying? Why would anybody listen to me in a world already full of noise? I want to show you today why your wisdom, your story, your message may be more important now than it's ever been. Guys, because the reality is history has always been shaped by voices, and this moment is crying out for yours. Now, guys, when I use the terminology, the battle for the mind, it can sound like really abstract, but I want to make it super practical for you, okay? Think about your average day. You wake up. Maybe you don't even make it out of bed before you reach for your phone. You check notifications, you glance at news headlines, and you scroll through your feed. And before your feet ever hit the floor, you've already been discipled. not by scripture, many times not by wisdom, but by whatever voices fought hardest for your attention in those first few moments of your day. See, the mind is not just a battlefield, it's the prize. Whoever wins the mind wins the culture. And let me prove it to you with a few examples, okay? Let's talk about TikTok in the next generation. See, TikTok is discipling kids faster than parents, teachers, or even pastors can. Think about this. The average TikTok video is less than 30 seconds long on average, okay? But it carries more influence over a 12-year-old's worldview than an entire 45-minute lecture in school. Why? Because repetition beats information, because emotion beats logic, because accessibility beats authority. Your child doesn't have to sit in a classroom or a sanctuary. They don't have to raise their hand or even buy a book. They just open an app and boom, the world is discipling them one scroll at a time. And here's the kicker. The algorithm knows them better than you do. It knows their interests, their fears, their desires. It knows what makes them laugh, what makes them angry, what keeps them hooked. And guys, this is the war that I'm talking about for the mind. Let's talk about news cycles and fear. It's not just kids, adults are just as vulnerable. Consider how fast news spreads today. A rumor, a headline, a conspiracy, even an out-of-context clip can set entire nations on fire before the facts ever catch up. Fear in our culture, it spreads faster than the truth. Outrage travels quicker than wisdom. And if you think this is new, it's really not. The printing press once disrupted the world the same way social media has, okay? But here's the difference. Back then, information traveled by horse and carriage. Now it travels at the speed of light, which means lies can circle the globe before truth ever gets out of bed. Guys, that's the war for the mind. Let's talk about politics and identity. Politics today isn't just about policies. We've made it our identities. We no longer just debate issues, we divide into tribes. And those tribes are being formed, not in town halls, but on Twitter, not in family gatherings, but in Facebook groups, not through thoughtful debate, but through 10-second clips designed to provoke outrage. Guys, are you catching the pattern here? This is not neutral. This is formation. This is what we call discipleship. And if wisdom doesn't step into the arena, folly will fill the vacuum. Now, I want you to hear me clearly. Content for a messenger, whether you're a pastor, teacher, entrepreneur, it doesn't matter where you're at. Content is not optional anymore. If you're alive in this generation, you're already creating it or you're consuming it. And the content you consume is forming the content of your character. That's why Paul said in Romans 12, this has been one of my favorite verses for many years, do not be conformed to this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind, that you might prove what is the good, acceptable, and perfect will of God. Because why would Paul say that? Because he knew what shapes the mind shapes the life. And what shapes enough individual lives begins to shape cultures. Let me get personal here, guys. Years ago, I thought one of the most powerful ways to shape people was through sermons. I still believe sermons are powerful. They're needed. They're necessary. I used to believe, because I grew up in church all my life, I used to believe that the pulpit was the epicenter of cultural transformation. But I will never forget the day I really woke up to the reality and it really clicked in me. Guys, I preached a message that I thought was one of the most anointed, life-changing sermons I'd ever delivered. People in the room were weeping. Lives were touched. But the very next day, I saw a 30-second clip online that had more views than my sermon would have in a lifetime. And that clip, it wasn't wisdom. It wasn't truth. It was noise, but it was shaping minds. And that's when I realized the pulpit in our generation, as powerful as it is, the feed is louder. And if we don't bring wisdom into the feed will disciple an entire generation into confusion. Guys, that moment changed everything for me. I stopped seeing content as optional. I stopped seeing the digital space as a side project, and I started to see it as the primary battleground, if you will. I don't have better language for it right now, of our time. So let me bust a myth here. Some of us think, well, I don't want to get involved in all that. I'll just stay neutral. Guys, but silence is not neutral. Absence is not neutral. Every empty space is filled by something. And if wise messengers don't fill the feed, foolish ones will. If voices of clarity don't step forward, voices of confusion will take center stage. If you and I don't speak truth, someone else will speak lies louder. This is why silence is not safe. Is there wisdom in silence? Yes, so that you can inherit wisdom. But to leave from that place of silence and let your voice be heard from what was birthed in your spirit in the silent place. Guys, I'm telling you, neutrality, it's not safe. It is participation by absence. So when I talk about this battle for the mind, I'm not speaking theoretically. I'm describing the air you breathe, the content you consume, the decisions you make every single day without even realizing you've been influenced. And I'm saying with every ounce of conviction in me, this is the moment for wise messengers to rise. Because the battle for the mind, it's not going to slow down. It's not going to pause for you to catch up. It's not going to politely wait for you to feel ready. The question is, will you step into it now, or will you let someone else's voice shape the future while yours stays silent? And I know what some of you are thinking. Mark, I don't have the platform. I don't have the skills. I don't even know where to start. But let me tell you this. This isn't about perfection. It's about presence. It's about showing up. It's about realizing that wisdom has always shaped history. Not the loudest, not the trendiest, but the wisest. People recognize wisdom. And this generation doesn't just need more content. It needs content with weight, content with depth, content with kingdom DNA in it. That's the battle for the mind. That's why you're listening to this right now, because deep down, you know your voice matters. And deep down, you know you can't afford to stay silent anymore. Guys, let's talk about something that gets confused in our culture all the time. The difference between an influencer and a messenger. I want you to pay attention to this because I think this is going to be really, really powerful for you to understand today, okay? Right now, the digital space is saturated with influencers, but it is starving for voices, starving for messengers. And if you don't understand the difference, you'll think you're not qualified, or worse, you'll spend your energy chasing the wrong goal. So what is an influencer? See, let me just explain it this way. An influencer is someone who has mastered the art of attention. They know how to hack algorithms. They know how to stay on trend. They know how to capture eyeballs. And don't get me wrong, there's nothing inherently wrong with influence. Influence is a gift, but here's the danger. Influence without wisdom leads to manipulation. Influencers often live and die by one metric, engagement. How many likes, how many comments, how many shares, and they'll do anything to get it, which means they are constantly adjusting their voice to what people want to hear, not necessarily what people need to hear. So what is a messenger? Well, let's compare. A messenger is not just trying to build a following. A messenger is carrying an assignment. The word messenger implies you don't invent the message, you received it. And now you're responsible to deliver it. See, an influencer says, look at me. A messenger says, look at this truth, look at this principle, look at this wisdom. An influencer asks, how can I get attention? A messenger asks, how can I steward what I've been given? An influencer adapts to trends. A messenger stands on truth. And here's the kicker. Influence fades, but a true message endures. Guys, if you study history, you're going to see this pattern. Movements didn't start with influencers. They started with messengers. The prophets of Israel, they weren't popular. They were often hated, but their words carried weight. The early apostles, they weren't influencers. They weren't trying to go viral, but their message turned the world upside down in the known world in just 20 years. Martin Luther didn't nail the 95 Theses to the church door to get followers. He did it because he carried a message that he believed had to be heard. Martin Luther King Jr., he didn't march in the streets because it was trendy. He did it because he had a dream rooted in justice that could not stay silent. Do you see the pattern? Messengers shape history. Influencers chase trends. Now, why does this matter for you? Because some of you listening right now have disqualified yourself. You've said things like, I'm not charismatic enough. I don't have a big personality. I don't know how to play the algorithm game. But let me remind you guys, you're not called to be an influencer. You're called to be a messenger. And a messenger doesn't need perfect lighting, the latest trending audio, or a massive following. A messenger just needs clarity, conviction, and here's a big one, consistency. That's it. Clarity, knowing what you're here to say. Conviction, believing it enough to say it even when it's unpopular. Consistency in showing up until the message takes root. And do you realize how freeing that is? You don't have to compete with viral influencers. You just have to steward your voice. So let me pull back the curtain here. See, so many influencers you see online right now, they're burning out. They're constantly chasing the next trend, the next piece of content, the next gimmick to keep their audience engaged. Guys, I've watched it. It's exhausting. It's shallow. It's empty. And that's why you see influencers with millions of followers confessing that they feel lonely, depressed, and purposeless, because influence without assignment is a hollow victory. But when you're a messenger, you may not always have millions of followers, but you'll always have meaning. And meaning will outlast metrics every time. See, guys, when I started creating content, I made a decision. I wasn't going to chase going viral. I wasn't going to perform for people's approval. Instead, I asked, what is the message that God has put in me for this generation? What wisdom have I lived that others need? And when I committed to that, guys, that burnout doesn't come. Something shifts, doors open, audience grew. We've got over 200,000 people on our Instagram right now, 14,000 on Facebook, and we're starting to grow on YouTube. But most importantly, my impact that God had given me, it multiplied, because impact flows from message, not from influencing manipulation. And let me remind you guys, one messenger can change everything. A single voice crying in the wilderness prepared the way for Jesus. A single reformer changed the trajectory of the church. A single speech ignited a civil rights movement. So don't you dare underestimate your voice. You may not be an influencer, but you can be a messenger. And messengers are what this generation desperately needs. This is why I believe with everything in me, the digital age is crying out for messengers. Not entertainers, not cloud chasers, not noisemakers, but men and women with wisdom, leaders with conviction, fathers and mothers with voices that carry weight. Because the feed doesn't need more content, it needs content with consequence, messages with weight, and that's what a messenger carries. So let me ask you, are you chasing influence, or do you want to steward a message? Because if you'll choose the path of a messenger, you may not always go viral, but you will always bear fruit, and fruit lasts longer than fame. Guys, and this is exactly why what I'm about to share with you next is so timely. Because the world we're living in right now, the speed of change, the rise of AI, the polarization of culture makes the messenger's role not just important, but essential. And that's where we're headed next. So let me say this. If you've been nodding your head so far, let me press this point even further. This is not just a good time for messengers. It's an essential time. We're not waiting for some distant future moment where all of this is going to matter. The moment is right now. And if wise voices don't step forward now, the void is going to be filled with foolish ones. So let's start with the obvious. The speed of change in our world has never been faster. I want you to think about this. What took centuries in previous generations happens in decades now. What took decades now happens in years, and what used to take years can happen in weeks or even days. Guys, AI is evolving at breakneck speed. New apps launch and hit millions of users almost overnight. Political shifts happen with a single viral clip. And guys, we're not living in a slow world anymore. We're living in a world where change is exponential. And in a world that changes this quickly, silence is not safety. It's surrender in many cases. Let's talk about AI for a moment. I don't believe AI is the end of humanity, but I do believe it's the end of neutral voices, because AI will accelerate the noise. It'll flood the digital landscape with more content, more videos, more articles, more everything. And most of it shallow, most of it manipulative, most of it designed to capture attention, not deliver wisdom. So what does that mean? It means if wise messengers don't step up, the feed will be dominated by machines instead of meaningful voices. AI, guys, can never and will not replace wisdom, but it will replace those who stay silent. And the world will drown in information while starving for wisdom. Guys, I'm telling you, that's why I'm building Long Path Media. That's why I'm building Long Path Publishing. It's because I refuse to let my generation drown in information when all it takes is us as kingdom people sharing our wisdom, telling the culture the wisdom of God and the wisdom you've been given, and giving them a good news perspective about life and giving them hope and joy and peace in difficult times. Guys, this is not even to mention, like, we're talking about the speed of change. We're talking about AI. But think about the polarization of culture and how it's reached a fever pitch. We're divided by politics. We're divided by race. We're divided by ideology. We're divided by economics. And the tragic part is most people don't even know why they believe what they believe. They're not thinking critically. They're parroting headlines. They're repeating sound bites. They're being discipled by algorithms into echo chambers. And in echo chambers, people don't grow. They calcify. They get harder. They get more stubborn. They get more angry. This is why wisdom is so necessary, because wisdom doesn't choose left or right. Wisdom chooses higher. Wisdom doesn't echo culture. Wisdom critiques culture. Wisdom doesn't divide. Wisdom heals. And without messengers carrying wisdom into this polarized age, we're only going to grow more fragmented. And I want you to hear me clearly. Silence has a cost. When you withhold your wisdom, when you shrink back from sharing your message, you're not just protecting yourself, you're leaving a gap. And the gap will not stay empty. It will be filled by louder, less wise voices. Think about it. How many marriages could be restored if someone shared their testimony of reconciliation online? How many teenagers could be saved from despair if someone shared a message of identity and hope? How many entrepreneurs could step into their calling if someone shared their journey of building with integrity? But friend, when those voices stay silent, others fill the void. Voices that glamorize brokenness, voices that celebrate emptiness, voices that normalize despair. Your silence doesn't just cost you, it costs others. Guys, there's two Greek words that I want to share with you. There's chronos and there's kairos. Okay, these two words are really important. I think the church that I grew up in, the Pentecostal charismatic world, these became buzzwords for a little bit of time, but I want to really point this out to you. Chronos is a Greek word that is clock time, like seconds, minutes, hours, okay? Kairos, however, is appointed time, divine opportunity, a window where what you do matters more than usual. And guys, I'm just going to say this. We're in a moment, I believe, and I don't want this to be cliche, because sometimes we hear this word and it goes one ear out the other. This is a time where it's absolutely essential. We are living in a kairos moment right now. The digital age is not an accident. The rise of AI is not coincidence. The polarization of culture is not random. This is a moment in history where God is raising up messengers, not just to hide in silence. There was a season for hiding. There was a season to be developed in the secret place. But I believe we're in a moment to step forward with wisdom that cuts through the noise. And Kairos moments don't wait. They don't hold open forever. They demand a response. This is why I'm so passionate about Wise Builders Creator Academy. It's why I'm passionate about equipping wise messengers right now, because I know some of you listening have been waiting. You've been telling yourself, I'll start when I have more time, or I'll share when I feel more confident, or I'll step up when I've figured it all out. But listen, friend, if you wait till it's convenient, you'll miss the Kairos. If you wait until it's perfect, you'll miss the opportunity. If you wait until you feel ready, you'll never begin. Guys, the time is now. The world needs your voice. And the battle for the mind, it's going to continue. It's being fought right now. And the absence of your message is not neutral. It's costly. And this is why I believe the call of this hour is not just to build businesses, not just to create content, not just to chase influence, but to rise as a wise messenger who will declare truth, release wisdom, and show people a better way. Because if not you, then who? If not now, then when? The battle for the mind's raging. The Kairos window is open and the world is waiting for your voice. And that brings me to the practical question. What does the way forward look like? How do you step into this role of a wise messenger without burning out, selling out, or losing yourself in the noise? And that's exactly what I want to unpack next, okay? We've talked about the battle for the mind. We've drawn the line between influencers and messengers. We've laid out the urgency of this Kairos moment. Please don't treat that statement as cliche. Now the question becomes, what do we do about it? What's the way forward? Because it's one thing to feel the weight of a moment. It's another thing to know how to respond to it. And I believe stepping into your role as a wise messenger comes down to 3 words. You ready? Number 1, courage, clarity, consistency. I said it earlier. I don't know if you caught it, but we're going to dive into these real quick. Courage. First, it takes courage. Let's be honest. Putting your voice out there, it can be scary at first. It opens you up to criticism. It exposes you to misunderstanding. It confronts your insecurities. But courage is not the absence of fear. It's the decision that fear will not silence you. Every messenger in history had to decide, I will speak even if it costs me. And in the digital age, courage looks like showing up. It looks like posting the video, writing the article, recording the podcast, even when you wonder if anyone will care. Because here's the truth. If your voice can help even one person, it's worth the risk. Number 2, clarity. It takes clarity. Noise is everywhere. Confusion is everywhere. What cuts through the noise is not volume, it's clarity. Clarity about your message, clarity about your story, clarity about the problem you solve, and the hope that you bring. You don't need to know everything. You don't need to be perfect. You just need clarity about the lane that you're called to run in. And that's why I always tell people, don't try to be everything to everyone. Find your voice, find your lane, and run in it with absolute conviction. And thirdly, finally, it takes consistency. Anybody can post once. Anyone can speak up occasionally. But messengers aren't made by moments. They're made by patterns. Messengers have blueprints. So consistency, friend, is what builds trust. Consistency is what builds authority. Consistency is what multiplies impact. And the truth is, the world doesn't need more one-hit wonders. It needs steady voices who keep showing up with wisdom week after week, year after year. That's how movements are built, not by flashes of influence, but by rivers of wisdom that keep flowing. Now, I know that some of you are listening to this and you think, Mark, that sounds great, but who am I to be a messenger? My platform's small. My voice feels insignificant. Well, guys, that's why I'm here to encourage you. Movements never start big. They always start small. The gospel began with 12. Revolutions often begin with whispers. Most cultural shifts begin with a handful of people who decided to speak up when it wasn't popular. I want to say this, guys, don't despise the day of small beginnings, because what feels small now can multiply into something you can't even imagine, but it won't happen if you don't start. And this is exactly why I'm so excited to make this announcement today, because I don't just want to inspire you with this message. I want to equip you. On October 1st, I'm launching something brand new. Here's the announcement, guys. I'm looking over here at comments, see who's with me here. Man, you guys are active today. I'm thankful for that. I'm looking. Let's say this. On October 1st, I'm launching something brand new, the Wise Messenger 12-week cohort. This is for those of you who know you're carrying wisdom, a story, a message that could impact lives, but you've struggled to know how to get it out there, how to multiply, and how to actually make it matter in the digital space. And over the last several years, I've built, I should say really the last couple of years, I've built a very significant online audience. I've taken my God-given wisdom, I've turned it into content, platforms, and even businesses that are changing lives. And now, for 12 weeks, I want to walk with you side by side. And in this cohort, I'm going to show you how to get crystal clear on your message. I'm going to show you how to package your wisdom into content that connects. I'm going to show you how to grow your influence without selling out or burning out. I'm going to show you how to multiply your voice for impact and, yes, income in the digital age. Guys, this isn't theory. It's not fluff. It's the same path I've lived out and proven. And now I want to help you live it too. So here's the deal. We begin October 1st. This is going to be a greenhouse for voices, a tight-knit group where I can give personal attention to every single messenger inside. So if you've ever said, I know I'm supposed to share my voice, but I don't know where to start, this is for you. If you've ever said, I've been sitting on wisdom, but I don't know how to multiply it, this is for you. If you've ever said, I feel called to be a voice for this generation, this is for you. But listen, I'll be honest with you, I can only take on so many people, so spots are limited, and I'm doing that on purpose because I want this to be intimate, I want it to be practical, I want it to be transformational. So if you're ready to step forward as a wise messenger in this hour, don't wait. I want you to go to my Instagram or Facebook, and I want you to DM me. If this is something you're interested in being a part of, I want you to DM me on Instagram or Facebook, and all you have to do is type cohort or just say, Mark, I want more information about the cohort. Just send me a little message there. Friend, I believe with all my heart, the world doesn't need another influencer. It needs wise voices. It needs your wisdom. And I believe your voice could be the very thing someone else is praying for right now. So take courage, get clear, commit to consistency. And if you're ready to help on that journey, if you're ready for help, I should say, on that journey, I'd be honored to walk with you in this cohort. We're starting October 1st. Guys, I'd love to see you inside. For those of you that may be wondering, maybe you're already in Wise Builders Creator Academy, you're going to get this for free as a part of you being a part of the community already. Man, I'm so excited for this. So let's land this plane. We've covered a lot today. The battle for the mind, the difference between influencers and messengers, the essential moment of this cultural moment, and the way forward is with courage, clarity, and consistency. But before we close, I want to leave you with this picture. Imagine a world where the loudest voices aren't the shallowest ones. Where kids scrolling on TikTok don't just see distractions, but they get truth. Where entrepreneurs don't just sell products, but they build movements that serve people with wisdom. Where social media doesn't divide families, but actually becomes the space where families discover hope. Guys, that's the world I believe we're called to build. And that world won't be shaped by politicians alone. It won't be shaped by celebrities alone. God help us. It won't even be shaped by preachers alone. It'll be shaped by messengers. Wise messengers who step into the digital space with voices that carry weight. So if you've been sitting back thinking your voice doesn't matter, I want to challenge that today. Your story matters, your wisdom matters, your perspective matters. There are people waiting on the other side of your obedience. And if you stay silent, they may never hear the truth you were meant to carry to them. Guys, this is not about building a brand, although that's important. This is not about going viral, but if wisdom starts to go viral, praise God. This is about stewarding what you've been entrusted with, your life, your wisdom, your voice. So here's my call to you as we close. Don't just be a consumer of content, be a creator of wisdom. Don't just scroll the feed, feel the feed. Don't just don't chase influence, carry a message, because the battle for the mind, it's happening now. And the world doesn't need another influencer. It needs you. And that's why I want to remind you just one more time about the Wise Messenger 12-week cohort launching October 1st. And guys, if today stirred something in you, if you felt that tug that your voice is needed, don't just leave it as inspiration, turn it into action. This cohort is where I'm going to walk with you hands-on for 12 weeks to help you package your wisdom, clarify your message, multiply your impact online. Again, spots are limited. This is going to go fast. So if you're ready to step forward, all you have to do is go to my Facebook or my Instagram, Mark Casto. You'll see my picture on there. Type me a little message, Mark, I want information about the 12-week cohort. One of my team members is going to reach out to you. We're going to get you set up. Friend, the future will belong to those who steward wisdom well. The battle for the mind is real, but wisdom has always had the final word. So don't shrink back. Don't stay silent. Don't let fear hold your voice hostage. Step forward, speak up, become the messenger you were born to be. This world doesn't need another influencer. It needs you. Thank you for joining me today on the Mark Casto program. If this episode spoke to you, make sure to subscribe. If you're listening to this by way of podcast, leave a review and share it with someone who needs to hear this. And until next time, step forward, speak with wisdom, and let your message become a movement.
Thanks for joining us on today's episode. If this spoke to you, don't keep it to yourself. Share it with a friend, leave a review, and make sure you subscribe so you never miss the wisdom that's shifting lives and systems. Until next time, keep building with clarity and fire.